for the current system to survive for a moment longer, we're going to have more and more severe control of differing thought, because it's so fragile now. The U.S. dollar so fragile right now. We printed $4 trillion in less than 18 months in the United States. That has sent us into a long spiral of inflation that it's going to take us years and years to dig out of. And so when you put the primary reserve currency of the world into an inflationary state, you create inherent instability. And then you couple that with the massive debt that the United States is carrying now. We're getting to this extremely fragile state of solubility as a macroeconomic structure. And the world is adapting to that. The world, you can see steps being taken. The Brexit was a big piece of this. When you see London stepping out of relationship to the EU and starting to develop more of a sovereign isolationist identity to their currency and their economic policy, that's a stance that's suggesting they're standing up to replace the United States, on some level in this economic maelstrom of an unstable global reserve currency that's typically been the U.S. dollar. So whether it's the sterling and pound there in the UK, or new structures of the SDR, which is it wasn't meant to be a currency, but is starting to be structured as a currency there at the central banks. So you have these different organizations that are stepping up to take proactive measures to try to stabilize an international currency system that is going to likely shift away from the U.S. dollar, faster and faster in these coming years. When you see that level of instability globally around something as foundational, if you will, as a reserve currency, the control of information has to be severe to keep people from panicking, right? And so there's going to be this effort to squash any voice that says there's a problem at all, because the problem is so big. And so we could say the same thing about human health. The crisis of human health is so severe right now that governments and health agencies and all pharmaceutical industries don't want you to know just how vulnerable human health is, because there would be a mad rush for the door out of Western medicine and out of healthcare in general if people knew the scale of what was going on the chronic disease side, or more frightening perhaps, the infertility side of humanity, as the sixth extinction kind of looms. And so that control of information is perhaps in some ways not even malignant. It's just a sense of desperation to try to stabilize for a little bit longer a system that is going to be increasingly in collapse and already is in collapse. And so the longer they can kick the can down the road of kind of a global awareness of this collapsing system, the less likely they get the rush to the door, And so I think there's a tendency in lawmakers, regulators, central bankers, doctors, healthcare systems at large to be like, look, I know we're going in the wrong direction. I know things are a crisis, but we can't really tell the whole truth, or else people are going to panic, and then we're going to have hospitals overflowing, and then we're going to have, massive recessions, and then we're going to have massive instability in global marketplace, and we'll have a stock market crash. And so everybody has all of the fear of the reality that they've created is going to unfold, and they're trying to kick that out as long as possible. So I think if all of us just kind of start to acknowledge that, of like, okay, the effort towards monoculture, the effort towards locking down alternative voices or perspectives on the status quo of any sector, it's not because there's a cabal trying to kill us. It's because we created a reality that's inherently unstable. And now we're having to face the Pied Piper here, and we're having to come to terms with the fact that, wow, we created something horrifically misaligned with nature. And the things we're bantering and pounding our chest about is, how dare you freeze my bank accounts? Well, it's because we created and bought into a system that was so inherently unstable that it would require something as severe as locking down any perspective, or make sure nobody's don't stop driving the trucks, for God's sake. That's the last pin in this fragile economy of Canada or the US or Western civilization at large. And so we created the phenomenon that those that are trying to control us are fearful of the collapse, and they're trying to do things to temporize our awareness of the collapse, I believe. And so, can we really be angry at them? No, we were complicit in creating the whole system that they're trying to do the house of cards, juggling of. I don't feel any malignancy towards governments right now. That these lawmakers are up a creek without a paddle. Like, nobody's offering them real solutions.